Welcome, age of vintage society. Diahann Carroll, the elegant star of stage and screen who changed the course of television history as the first African-American woman to be cast as a professional rather than a domestic worker in 1968's groundbreaking sitcom Julia, and to win a Lead Actress Tony Award. Why was Diahann Carroll the first black actress captured respect in Hollywood? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. The first African-American Emmy nominee, Diahann Carroll. Diahann Carroll, who liked to bathe in milk and could be as much a diva in real life as she was on screen, she is the consummate entertainer. So varied and dynamic are her gifts that she continually astounds fans and critics alike with her versatility and magnetism. Diahann Carroll is the first African-American Emmy nominee in 1963 for Naked City. Carroll is perhaps best remembered by younger audiences for her role as the conniving Dominique Devereaux on the nighttime soap Dynasty in the mid-80s. But her first major television assignment was starring as the middle-class single mother Julia in a 1968 sitcom that was praised for featuring an African-American in the title role, as much as it was criticised for ignoring the civil rights struggle. The series, which ran for 3 years, was a trailblazer in leading to greater visibility for African-American characters on series television. The actress, characterised by svelte cosmopolitan sophistication, had come to television via the musical theatre. In the early 1960s she won a Tony as the star of Richard Rodgers' musical No Strings. The role had been written especially for her. Carroll had previously been featured in supporting roles in such films as Carmen Jones and Porgy and Bess. She was only the fourth black actress to be nominated for the Best Actress Oscar for the 1974 romantic drama Claudine. Despite her beauty and undeniable talents as a performer, Carroll sometimes struggled to find roles. When once asked why she did little film work after Claudine, she replied incredulously, "Have you seen another film script with a starring role with the character of Claudine? I haven't. I'm sometimes amazed at how few people realise what it takes for a black woman to survive in this business." Actress and singer Carol Diane Johnson was born on July 17, 1935 in the Bronx, New York. Carol's mother was a homemaker and her father was a subway conductor for the New York City Department of Transportation. Carol was 13 when her only sibling Lydia was born. The family lived in an apartment on West 151st Street in Harlem. Even as a child, the young girl recognized that she loved singing, and she soon began taking lessons in downtown Manhattan. When Carol was 6, she began singing in a choir at her Harlem church. A few years later, she won a scholarship for music lessons with an organization affiliated with the Metropolitan Opera. Carol then attended the High School of Music and Art in New York. With her voice teachers, she learned a broader repertory of music, including German lieder and Italian art songs. She also took piano lessons. 1 year later, at age 16, Carol also made her first move into show business, teaming up with a classmate from school to try out for a television show called Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts. When the show's producers objected to the duo's name, Carol adopted the stage name Diahann Carroll, thought up by her friend. After the audition, Carol was invited to appear on the show without her friend, and when she did, she won first prize. After that, she appeared on Godfrey's daily radio show for 3 weeks. After graduation from high school, Carol enrolled at New York University, where she intended to study psychology. Despite her attempts to comply with her parents' desire that she complete her education, singing and modelling proved a more compelling lure than schoolwork. First, she won $3,000 on Chance of a Lifetime, a television talent show that netted her a week's engagement at a nightclub called the Latin Quarter. At the age of 18, she won the $1,000 top prize. After 4 consecutive wins on that show, she became a fixture on the nightclub scene in New York and beyond. After that short gig, the owner of the nightclub, who also ran a talent management agency, offered her a contract. Carroll devoted a large portion of her time to voice lessons, rehearsals, modelling and singing jobs. At the end of her first term in college, she withdrew from her classes, intending to devote 2 years to exploring the possibility that she could make a career as a singer. Although she tried to win roles in Broadway musicals, parts for black singers in the early 1950s were sparse. Instead, she sang in mountain resorts in the Catskills, and she toured small towns on her own, singing in nightclubs. At 18, Carroll returned to New York City and began to sing at the Cafe Society downtown in Greenwich Village. In an effort to shed her naive and innocent persona, she began to wear slinky gowns to go along with the torch songs she was singing, and her glamorous wardrobe soon became a part of her stage persona. In 1954, she made her debut in Carmen Jones, playing a supporting character to the lead. The same year, she appeared in a Broadway play, House of Flowers. The film adaptation of George Gershwin's Porgy and Bess starred Carroll, but her voice was dubbed by an opera singer. While working on this show, Carroll dated the show's casting director, Monty Kaye, who became her first husband in September of 1956. Carroll continued working in nightclubs, but she also devoted a large part of her energy to her husband. In 1961, she was casted alongside with Sidney Poitier, Joan Woodward and Paul Newman in the film Paris Blues. In 1959, Carroll accepted an offer to appear in her second movie, taking the role of Clara in Porgy and Bess. While filming this project, Carroll met and fell in love with actor Sidney Poitier. Because both were married, however, they returned to their respective lives, and Carroll continued pursuing nightclubs for work. In September of 1960, Carroll had a child, Suzanne Patricia Ottilie Kaye, with her husband in an effort to save her marriage. Meanwhile, she had become a regular guest on The Tonight Show, hosted by Jack Parr. Carroll also starred in Broadway musical No Strings, which was written for her by Richard Rodgers, a legend in American musical theatre. Carroll's performance as a fashion model in Paris earned her a second Tony nomination, after the show opened in New York City in March of 1962. She won, sharing the award with another nominated actress. When the show's New York run ended, Carroll went on to tour with the rest of the cast. Her involvement with No Strings ended in California, when she abruptly became engaged to Sidney Poitier, only to break off the relationship several months later. Carroll then resumed her nightclub singing, moving to expand her repertoire beyond the Harold Arlen and Cole Porter standards she had previously perfected. Finally, 9 years after they had first met, she was able to bring her alliance with Poitier to an end in 1968. At that time, Carroll embarked on a new phase of her career, although she had previously appeared on a number of television variety shows, including The Danny Kaye Show, The Carol Burnett Show, and specials with Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. Television had not been a major facet of her activities. She was cast as the lead in Julia in 1968, however, that Carroll became a bona fide celebrity. Julia depicted the life of a widowed nurse who was struggling to raise her child in Southern California. The role made her the first African-American woman to star in her own television series. She was also a trailblazer. As Julia, she captured attention and respect as the first black actress to star in her own TV series and the first nominated for a comedic lead Emmy. With this role as a widowed nurse employed as an assistant in the office of a white doctor, she gave viewers a new image of the working black woman at a time when black actresses were most often cast as domestics. Julia was the first TV show to depict a black middle-class family, and Carroll was its sophisticated focal point. With this popularity came heightened exposure for Carroll, and pressure for her to respond to the racial tensions of the day, which had risen to a fever pitch in the wake of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Although she had no control over the contents of the script for her show, she felt that she was held accountable for its racial content. I learned quickly that almost any time a third world face became prominent on TV, we became responsible for the whole minority community. After impersonating a wholesome nurse on television, Carroll discovered that her nightclub career had withered, as fans replaced their old image of her as a glamorous singer with their new impression. In an effort to regain an audience, she began making her shows more elaborate. In 1970, exhausted by the pressures of a weekly series, Carroll requested to be released from her contract for Julia. Lacking other television or film opportunities, Carroll returned as always to singing. At this time she had become romantically involved with David Frost, a British talk show host. In November of 1972 she and Frost became engaged, although their relationship was strife-ridden. But she married another man, Freddie Glusman, whom she had seen intermittently while being involved with Frost. A few months later the couple divorced. Later she identified the episode as a silly marriage and a silly divorce. In the wake of this personal turmoil, Carroll turned to her professional life with renewed enthusiasm. She was offered the lead in a movie entitled Claudine. In the course of publicising Claudine, Carroll met Robert de Leon, the 24-year-old managing editor of Jet magazine. Less than 3 months later, the two married. Her television nominations go back to 1963, and in 1968 Diahann Carroll became the first black actress in television history to star in her own series, Julia for NBC, which soared to the top of the Nielsen rating and received an Emmy nomination in its first year on the air. In 1989 she was nominated for an Emmy Award for the successful NBC TV series A Different World, as an outstanding actress in a comedy series. In 1984 Diahann Carroll became the first black actress to star in the award-winning nighttime series Dynasty. Diahann Carroll has spent more than 40 years in show business, making a name for herself as a glamorous nightclub singer and as an actress who has performed on Broadway, in movies and on television. Throughout her career, which has ranged from classic musicals to nighttime soap operas, Carroll has returned to her roots, cabaret singing, after acting stints or times of personal turmoil and distractions, of which many have come and gone. As she approached age 60, Carroll had once again defied the odds in her industry, continuing to work while other women, blacks and actors over the age of 40 found it difficult to sustain their careers. Throughout her long career, her versatility and her capacity to continue working as a singer, even in times of personal crisis, has served her well. Carroll will be remembered and revered for her dynamic performances, her courage and her success in fighting one of the toughest battles in show business, typecasting. She made her mark and broadened the playing field for many entertainers of colour. For that we, as a nation, can be grateful. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it's your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Diahann Carroll? She made history with Julia. She was not just an actress, but as a singer with a captivating voice, silver-toned, polished, elegant.